Non lo so. Sì. Ok. I have some trouble, but I hope that on Facebook it is going in streaming right now. So welcome to everybody to the second X-Formal Museum Day. It is not a national museum day, it is only our museum day because we are, many museums are engaged with our project and we would like to share with them some good practices, some ideas. So the project aims, I have my presentation, just a couple of words. Okay. The project aims to raise awareness of our cultural heritage with a focus on the ancient world of pre-Roman cultures up to Romanization in 5 European countries: Italy, Portugal, Spain, France, and Poland. The acronym of the project, X-Formal, reminds us that we are moving in the field of informal and non-formal learning. For this reason, contact with the ancient world is established by means of a game, an app with georeferencing system, which helps the citizens move along a pathway in the real world, where they will encounter monuments and learn by facing challenges. They will learn about history, writing, and the culture of the peoples before Rome, up to the period when the Roman culture overlaps with local cultures. There will be 7 routes. I will show something about the routes we are building: 2 in Italy and France, 1 in Spain, 1 in Poland, and a virtual one developed by the Spanish team, which will embrace the Celtic culture in several European countries: Italy, France, Spain, and Portugal. There's an example of the pathway in Verona with this starting point and stops through the old town. Thanks to effort of the Istituto Politecnico di Braganza in collaboration with the technology partner nCloud in Desio, Milan, we are currently developing the game user interface. Another partner, FEF in Finland, is developing the cartography, which also includes the ancient world layouts. The maps you have seen right now comes from FEF. The museums involved in the project, the Saragozza Museum, the Centro Scienze Vive in Braganza, in Portugal, ETRU, the Museo Villa Giulia in Rome, and the Società Dante Alighieri in Wrocław, are responsible for disseminating the project through Europe and beyond. The scientific partners, the University of Bordeaux, linked with the CNRS Ausonius, the University of Saragozza, the University of Poznan in Poland, and Alteritas provide the app's content on the ancient world and are involved in training and scientific dissemination. The University of Genova is the lead of the project and covers the educational aspects of X-Formal. The exchange of expertise of different partners, academic and non-academic, is one of the strengths of Marie Curie project and RISE in particular. Therefore, the project made use of the secondments, stays, of scholars from their research center or companies to work with the other partners. For information on the project, you can visit our webpage. Why Museum Days? This is already the second event organized by X-Formal as part of its dissemination and information activities. The first was held on the 6th March in 2023 and was about engaging citizens and stakeholders. Because museums are the place where the project takes shape, most of the objects that citizens encounter in the game can be found in museums. Museums have therefore become key partners in the project, through whom the game will be disseminated and will hopefully gain their citizens, but also audiences from other cities, regions, and countries to learn about their rich heritage. The museums involved in the X-Formal project with which we are entering into agreement are the following. You can see it in the slide. I don't list each of them.
I don't see any slides, Simona.
Me neither.
Really?
No, we could not see the slides, not even the maps you have shown before.
These are the maps. Can you see the
No.
maps?
No.
Not yet.
No maps, no slides.
Okay, so I try another way.
We see your face, but not the names.
Was nice to see, but not
Very
enough.
nice.
Not enough for my purposes. So, museum program. I shift to a PDF presentation. Which I can't find, I don't know why. Here, PPT. Just a second. Sorry, I can't find the presentation I've just created. Here is it. So you probably didn't see it because I didn't share my screen. That's okay.
We can see it now.
Okay. So very briefly, I will represent the program, the maps. Okay, this has the pathways in Europe with a spatial, you can see the Roman roads in red and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pathways. One of them is a virtual pathway, and this is the example of the Verona pathway. So I was speaking about the partnership. We have academic and non-academic partners. Some of you have already seen this slide. In this case, I have explained that scientific partners move to non-scientific partners and vice versa. These are the museums involved in the X-Formal pathway. I was just telling that I will not read all of them, but they are in Italy, in France, in Spain, and in Poland. Museums also involved in the virtual pathways, which run through Italy, France, Portugal, and Spain. Okay, so one of the themes dear to the European Commission, which is reflected in all programs, is that of inclusion and accessibility. In our project True, we wanted to take this aspect into account when designing the various game paths, and a number of researchers have made a special effort by working on this issue in their secondments. This was the case of Società Dante Alighieri Wrocław, in cooperation with the UNIGE, with the University of Genova. For this reason, we thought of offering a discussion platform open to all. We aim primarily at museums on this issue, to which we will now be introduced by our colleague Yvonne Fachada from our museum partner in Braganza, the Centro Ciencia Viva, who is very active on this topic, and we are dealing with today, and whom we have organized both the first and the second museum day. Thank you, Yvonne, once again, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simona. So hello, everyone. Greetings from Portugal, from the northeast of Portugal. My name is Yvonne. I work as a director in the Ciencia Viva Science Center. So our museum is not actually a museum. It's a science center. We do not have collections. We have exhibitions, permanent and temporary. but we are very keen in pursuing the accessibility thematics and inclusion. So I want to give you all a warm welcome for being in this session and also for presenting and sharing your ideas and the projects that you have in your museums about accessibility and inclusion, or even the struggles that we all face when facing these challenges of accessibility. In my museum, for example, we really have a long way to go. This is why Simona said I'm so into this subject, because it's a problem that needs to be solved. So basically, accessibility and inclusion are fundamental in our museums for several reasons, of course. First is to ensure that people with all abilities can enjoy and benefit from our educational and cultural resources that the museums offer, of course. This is to align with the principles of equal access and opportunity, of course. Secondly, it can help us museums to reach a wider audience and engage diverse communities, right? This way we can lead to a more enriched and representative cultural experience for all visitors. And finally, I think that if we lean on accessibility and inclusion, our museums can reflect a commitment to social responsibility and ethical practice, promoting a more equitable and inclusive society in general. So we need to prioritize accessibility and inclusion, and museums this way can fulfill their role as a public institution that serve the needs of an entire community. So welcome everyone, and later on, after the coffee break, I'll have a small presentation going deeper into these issues. Okay, it's a very brief presentation before I give back the floor to all of you. So I think this will be a great theme for debate, and we are looking forward for everyone's contribution, because especially for me, I really need to learn from all of you. So thank you so much, and Simona, you can moderate again. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. So thank you. Let's get started with this first part, which is a short presentation of the participant museums. I invite as first Isidro Aguilera, Museo de Zaragoza in Spain. Please, Isidro, activate your microphone. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes.
Simona, nos aparece un cartel diciendo que el anfitrión inhabilitó la función de compartir pantalla.
Okay. Please.
Y queremos...
No. Please. You can do it now.
Okay.
Anyway, you know, we are a classical museum, a general museum with four buildings, one in Zaragoza, one in Melilla de Ebro, 15 kilometers away. We're politic in accessibility and inclusion is very hard, because our staff is very short, and we must to be attend a lot of things in the life of the museum. We have prepared a presentation, but I think it's very long for this moment. Do you know? Or do you think if we know to present the slides now or later?
You can present it now, some general introductory slides, and then you can present the other in the second session if you want.
But it's a speed presentation with the main goals. our museum in these subjects. We work especially in social accessibility, creativity for disabled people, fundraising, training of trainers, cultural equality, new public, immigrants is very important in Spain at this moment, in contact with other culture. We have a lot of problems to spread our message for everybody. Actions for social accessibility. We have trainings with Foundation Down, con Foundation SSE for the digitalization of material to obtain professional certificate for 10 young people with disability and risk of social exclusion. Knowledge transmission. Goya in pictogramas is a project makes available to users the files in the works of Goya and adapted through the graphic and material resources to facilitate the understanding and communication of those people with same types of cognitive difficulty. Autocar Prado is another experience, traveling exhibition at the Prado Museum to bring art closer to people with visual disabilities. 6 relief reproductions are shown with the support of audio guides and signs of Braille. Creativity. La exhibition or la exposición Almiville and Francisco de Goya, interpretation of Goya work project that promotes artistic creation, art tool for personal development. Aspanoa exhibition, the museum gives exhibition expresses the Association of Children with Oncology Aspanoa to hold a temporary exhibition in which the money raised from the sale of the works goes to the fight against childhood cancer. We live in our event. The museum gives the space to celebrate the awards gala of the Believe Art in the Association. Funds raised to ticket sales are used for social purposes. Training of trainers. Agreement with Plena Inclusión Aragón. Plena Inclusión Association carry out training with its team to trainers for museum staff. The training is about the accessibility of spaces needs to an attention to people with disabilities. Proyecto Cultura en Igualdad, Culture in Equality Projects, International Women's Day, Action and Social Network and Exhibitions, Woman Guide in Zaragoza Museum, a look at equality, gender itinerary through specific posters in the permanent exhibition rooms, Goya and Feminist exhibition, a complex relationship, Blanco y Negro, Magenta Asociación and Zaragoza Museum, with the support of the Goya Foundation in Aragon and the Aragonese Women's Institute. Exhibition We Are the Sun, women artists in its Asian collections. Contact with other cultures. Japan, in an increasing globalized world, the Museum of Zaragoza has special interest in bringing our public closer to different cultures that exist throughout the world. Our collection of art from the Far East allows us to raise awareness among local people of the regions of the contribution of civilization are different from ours as the Japanese. These actions are carried out in collaboration with the social and public organizations such as the Aragon Japan Cultural Association and the Japan Foundation. And finally, migration. Exhibition named Letras Perdidas, Voces Olvidadas, la lengua árabe en el Museo de Zaragoza, las letters, Forgotten Voices, the Arabic languages in Zaragoza Museum. It's an exhibition about Arabic writing as a fundamental element in the daily life of past societies. It's a way of bringing our past closer to the people of the present, value its importance and promote the inclusion of the culture, societies, and people. and deficiencies. We have a lot of hard deficiencies, especially in accessibility. At this moment, work in progress at the museum avenues to facilitate accessibility for people with physical disabilities, important deficiencies in the building of our ethnology and ceramic section with no date for a solution. Tangible solution for the actually disability people, in magnetic loop for the hearing disability people. That's all. I can hear. I can hear it.
Thank
Simona?
you very much, Isidro. And I had the occasion on 2 secondments to take part, also to visit some of the exhibition, the initiatives your fine museum has, and thank you. The second to speak is Armando Felicio, Museum de Abade de Bassal in Bragança, Portugal. Please, the floor is yours, Felicio.
Hello, good afternoon to all of you. I will just put my presentation on. Okay, sharing and okay. Are you seeing the presentation? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So, good afternoon to all of you. I'm Armando Felicio from the Museum of Abade de Bassal in Bragança, just a few meters from Yvonne. We are a museum which the main collections are archaeological collections, art collections, sacred art collections, and an history museum, a museum which tries to show a little bit of the history of the northeast of Portugal. Well, the accessibility subject is something that we are working in for some years ago. Well, at least we are dealing with it with a lot of problems, of course, but I think with a nice array of things that we are doing well, or at least we are trying to do it well. I'll just in a nutshell try to show a little bit of what are our main lines of action, or at least lines of thinking on this problem. So, well, the museum, as I told you, is a museum of archaeology. The name of the museum, the Abade de Bassal, it was the Abbot of Bassal, a small village near Bragança. The museum was founded in 1915, and the Abbot of Bassal has been the director of the museum from 1925 to 1935. And then the name of the Abbot of Bassal was donated to the museum for as its patron person. Nowadays we are working. Well, this is just the points that you have put on your email about the main points that we should talk about in the presentation: inclusive language, the building accessibility, the exhibition accessibility, the challenges we are facing, well, and the possible solutions and suggestions, and the access to the monuments preserved in the structure of the museum. Well, as for the first theme, the inclusive language, it's something that we are working in for some years now. And what we are doing first is to identify the different needs of the publics that search the museum for visiting. We try to work with target groups with different disabilities, young people, elderly people, people with low literacy, different levels of literacy, even specialists, of course, too. And the idea is to try to make a final version of the texts of the museums that are the most able to communicate with the higher number of people that visits us. We, at the same time, are working in the idea of audio description of the museums for the people to make, for people with some kind of disabilities, like visual impairments, for example, being able to visit the museum with an audio guide, which is audio descripted and can describe not only the exhibition, but the whole building and the whole circuit of the museum. And we try in the area of the designing to work with high contrast texts that are easy to read, even for people which are not blind but have a low vision level. We try to do it also in the communications material, in the communication materials, trying to use simple language, accessible design. Once again, the high contrast in the designing of these materials for better readability. And then, as a way, we think it's the most common way for us to make the museum more accessible, which are the guided visits, which are adapted for different peoples, for different targets of public, of course, from schools, elderly, regular tourists, specialists, etc. And of course, we try to make special visits for people with disabilities. We have made some experiences with people with visual disabilities. They are a really nice way to communicate with people, and it's a great moment for learning for all of us, even the ones who are guiding the visits, of course. And it's a very touching moment, of course, because we try to make the possibility for some of the pieces for some of the objects of the museum to being touched by the visitors. We have made some experiences too with people with audio disabilities. Very difficult. Those visits are a little bit difficult to make because the knowledge that we have in the way to communicate with the deaf people we don't have the ability to do it well, so it's a more difficult experience. But we have tried those kind of visits for 2 or 3 times, and it's something that we will try to develop in the future. As for the building, it's the museum building was a bishop's palace in Bragança, so it's an 18th century palace which has been restored or reformed in the end of the 1990s. So almost all of the museum is accessible by people with low mobility or some mobility disabilities. We have ramps that provide access to all parts of the museum, including the garden that we have on the back side of the museum. And these ramps allow the visitors in each floor to visit all the rooms of the museum. And then we have a lift that connects the 3 floors of the museum. So the exhibition is in the level 0 and 1. And all of the rooms of the exhibition are accessible, and in the lower level we have the bathrooms, which are accessible by lift too. And of course, we try to identify the spaces inside the building. Of course, the bathrooms, the emergency exits, and we are working in the identification of spaces, in an identification which may be more accessible than it is nowadays. For the exhibitions, we try to have a more inclusive language, of course, in the texts, in the labels of the objects, and then we try, as for the rest of the museum, to construct specific guided visits for some targets of public. We make some mediation activities, of course, with workshops, debates, lectures, and we try to do communications materials with inclusive language and accessible designs for visitors in free visits. So for the people which are not engaged in the guided visits, there are communication materials which help the visitors to read the exhibitions. We started to work with subtitle videos too in the last temporary exhibition, the actual temporary exhibition, which has an interview with an artist's relatives, and the whole video is subtitled too. So the idea when we talk about the exhibition accessibility is to make the contents of the exhibition not only more accessible for people with disabilities, but for different kinds of publics which search the museum for a general visit or for a specific visit in a temporary exhibition, for example. And the idea is to communicate more, put in common what is the message that we are trying to conduct with the exhibition. Well, for the challenges that we faced, well, I just put forward, there are like a million of challenges that we have when we talk about the accessibility. I identified in a fast thinking exercise, well, the lack of internal knowledge to deal with this. Of course, in the team of the museum, we are a small team, which are engaged in almost all of the activities of the museum. So accessibility is not something that we have a person which is completely dedicated to. And of course, most of the people of the team of the museum doesn't have actual knowledge in the subject of accessibility. Of course, the lack of financial resources, because if we want to make audio guides, audio description guides, replicas of objects or video guides, of course, we need financial resources to make this. And of course, it's a challenge because the array of publics that we deal with are ever more great, and there are almost every day we are searched by new kinds of people, the migrants, of course, here in Bragança, the students from abroad, of course, which are an important part of the population of Bragança nowadays, and of course all the kind of all the array of disabilities that we are obligated to deal with. And one challenge that I think a lot about is, I wrote it this way: how to reach an equilibrium between the different publics with a minimum loss for each of those publics. Because when we adapt something for one kind of public, we are disadapting it for other kinds of publics. So this is something that is really a challenge and something that needs to be think about. Well, for the possible solutions and suggestions, well, I put five points here that I think it's some of the ways we must work in this kind of subject. Of course, work with the community using its capabilities and mobilizing their engagement. It's fundamental for the success of any project in accessibility. Always learn with the experiences with different types of publics, because every time we we develop a project in the accessibility. We learn a lot with what we made, and we identifying what we have made better and what we have made wrong. And with the errors, we of course try to do it better for the next time. Using target groups to test and develop the initiatives, it's something that is really useful, and it's a way not only to engage the community, but to know that what you are doing is really directed for the people which are the target public of the initiative. Learn with the experiences developed by other cultural institutions, of course. And I think it's really important that we have to involve the whole members of the staff of the institutions to achieve better results. Accessibility is at first a question of mutual understanding, and the idea is that not only we can make ourselves understood, but that we can understand the people that searches, and we can, of course, communicate that we have a message that can reach the other, and the other have a message that can reach us. That's the main point of all of this. So it's my presentation. We can speak a little bit more about this later. Thank you, and I'm open to hear all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Armando. There are already some very important points that deserve a discussion later in your presentation and in the previous one. But okay, let's talk about later on. I invite to speak Monica Loffredo da Fondazione Rovati di Milano.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Nice to see you.
Ciao, Simona. Thank you very much. Do you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Simona, for inviting us today. It's a great privilege to be here and be able to speak about those important topics for all of us. I will briefly introduce Fondazione Luigi Rovati. We have opened our museum, art museum in Milan in September 2022, and it's in memory of Luigi Rovati, an entrepreneur, a medical doctor, and a philanthropist. Our museum is a link between Etruscan art, so ancient art, and contemporary art. So we are between those two big important part of our art. What is the foundation? It's not just an art museum, but it's a place for entertainment, services, education, and we want to believe that it will be, and we are working on a center for experimental studies, and it is our experimental studies are based, and I've got a name that is to embody, to underline an important relationship with our visitors, and so this is our main aim. So we see, you see, and then I leave the audience to Angela Paolucci and Mauro Ceolin, that are part of our team of accessibility, but we don't call it accessibility, but we call it Museo Gentile. That is a gentle museum, and it's really what we wanted to our museum become. So as a place of immersion, learning, and encounter, and to have a long relationship and a lasting relationship to every kind of public. So all our visitors. But I feel very important that it's not me that I'm the director to speak about this, but the people and the person of the team that works every day with accessibility.
Thank
So
you.
please,
Thank you
Angela.
so much, Monica. Thank you to the director. And I will briefly explain to you the project that we have at the moment and the project that we are working on. First off, we have Museum for All, that is a network that in Italy allows museum to become accessible for people with cognitive disability. This project allows us to have 2 guides available in our ticket office in print and downloadable from our website in PDF. One uses a specific language, easy to read, and the other uses symbols from augmentative and alternative communication directed to people with cognitive disabilities. And we also host and organize guided tours for adults and children with the association L'Abilità around the museum floors and the museum spaces. Another project that we launched this year, actually we are on an explanatory phase now, is Being Well Together, that's addressed to people with neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers. What we believe is new about this project is that it involves a pair of people and it's not a guided tour itself. So the caregivers are given 6 paths to follow around the museum that are divided by how complex a work of art is to understand and how easy it is to explain to the person with dementia. We are now, as I said, in a testing phase that will last from January to May, and we are taking surveys after each visit to have feedbacks from the people involved so we can improve our materials that we give and the path themselves. We also have other 3 projects that are currently in the works. One is directed to people who are partially sighted or generally visually impaired. And this time we cooperate with the Istituto dei Ciechi di Milano, with whom we made 3D printed objects from the Etruscan banquet that is one of the main artifacts in our attractions in our museum. And we also aim to provide haptic guides for the museum spaces, so the exhibition floors, and also the artworks like paintings. For people with hearing impairment, we have been working for quite some time with the National Association of the Deaf because we provided more than once Italian Sign Language translation for activity hosted by the foundation, such as conferences or generally divulgative events. And for this specific project, we want to make audio guides of a selection of artworks from our collection. And these video guides will also explain the exhibition rooms in our museum. And in the end, we are also in the works with Il Carro, which is a cooperative, and we aim to train a person with cognitive disability to enrich their personal autonomy and help them with their self-esteem and confidence. Because we will explore the roles in the museum that every person who works in it has to enrich the person with cognitive disability and to make them learn and give them new knowledge that could be also applied in every other social condition or other social gatherings or social occasions in general. We faced many challenges during this project, and because we host a lot of temporary exhibitions, And every time we host a new exhibition, we have to provide new materials for these projects. And we also provide new formation for the cultural mediators that we have in our museum rooms that help who help the visitors around their visits, but not only the general public, but also the specific public and communities. Thank you.
Thank you. You are ready with the presentation. Okay. So thank you so much for the Fondazione Rovati Milan. I had also the occasion to be there last year, I think it was last year. And it was a really very nice foundation, very nice museum to enjoy the visit. And okay, thank you. And the next speaker is Fabio Galeandro, Museo Archeologico Nazionale Giuseppe Andreassi e Parco Archeologico di Egnazia. I had a doubt. It's Giuseppe Andreassi, isn't it?
Giuseppe Andreassi, corretto.
I had a second of doubt. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, Fabio.
actually, thank you. Just a moment. Okay. Do you see?
Yes, very well.
Presentation? Okay, okay. Good evening, and thank you for your invitation. I'll talk about accessibility, and inclusion in relationship with the archaeological site of Egnazia. We are in southern Italy, and Egnazia is an archaeological place very linked to the ancient world from the Bronze Age to the late antiquity and the Middle Age. And as you see, the site is preserved in an archaeological park. You can see the town and the Acropolis. And we have the fortune to have a museum in situ. This is the museum. As you see, the ancient city is a part of an extraordinary natural context between the sea, the rocky coast, coastal gardens, and centuries-old olive groves. A context that represents an historicized piece of landscape. So you can see the museum and the park following different itineraries linked to different colors. You can follow it in the museum here, also with painting wall in different colors, and also in the archaeological park by panels. But rather than talking about a single aspect or activity, I prefer to talk about the general setting of the complex park and museum in terms of accessibility, and inclusive language. We have recently concluded an important European project of enhancement and protection works of the archaeological area and complexion of the museum layout of the National Archaeological Museum of Egnazia, which has many interventions inside the museum, outside the museum, and also in relationship with the archaeological park, for example, night lighting, and also the restoration to give an important, to give an added value to the visit. And we realized a new arrangement of the parking area and the green areas, and also bookshop and all the services like ticketing. All with products environmentally friendly. And we realized the reconfiguration of the museum access and exit system, all to give a full physical accessibility. But most of all, in the basement, the creation of the new exhibition section, Egnazia and the Sea. Previously, the spaces were occupied by offices and warehouses. The use of compactor cabinets has allowed us to significantly reduce storage spaces. And also the use of technology RFID is very important in terms of management and accessibility. This section is quite different by the the traditional one is more immersive, is more attractive. It was projected and realized to reach all the kind of publics. And I think that it is what we need to do in this case. Another project following the eArcheo project, which is a project that gives us the possibility to have a 3D reconstruction of the ancient town, but with a website, with the possibility to see them just on the web. In the project of digitization of the cultural heritage of the National Museum, the archaeological area of the Ignazia, in old intervention, there was the creation, processing, and systemization of the 3D reconstruction for one-site use. So now you can leave this 3D reconstruction not only in virtual reality, but also in augmented realities. That it's very important for the kind of our archaeological remains. And now we are carrying on a physical and cognitive barrier removal project, which is the natural complexion of the bridge too. But I think that we can talk about in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would say very impressive, the whole park. Thank you. I have to visit it. I didn't visit it so
I hope so.
Many years ago. There was another thing, of course. Okay, thank you. And that the next speaker is Giovanna Falezza from the Museo Archeologico Nazionale di Verona. Welcome, Giovanna, and please.
Forse dobbiamo levare la condivisione?
Esco io.
Okay.
Good afternoon to everybody, and then I condivido io. It's okay, you see?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. I present a little this museum, the National Archaeological Museum of Verona. It exhibits the remains of archaeological research carried out in the Verona area, covering a period from prehistory to protohistory, the Celtic period, Romanization, and the imperial period. The building, originally a court and military prisons, was built during the Austrian domain of Verona. In this period, Verona had a crucial position in the Austrian defensive system and was also a vital logistical center for military supplies and administrative operations. The long restoration, excuse me.
Se forse puoi attivare la presentazione. Ok.
Vediamo. Okay, yes. The long restoration work on the building led by the superintendent.
No, scusa, ma non hai attivato la presentazione.
Aspetta che vediamo. It's okay, so?
Sì, perfetto.
Okay. The long restoration work on the building led by the superintendency has been concluded with the opening of the museum in February 2022. The beautiful restored building is one of the best preserved examples of Austrian civil architecture in the city. Today is open to the public the prehistory and protohistory section, with the physical, virtual, and multimedia video reconstruction The history of the Veronese territory is told from 200,000 years ago to the 1st century before Christ. The itinerary of the exhibition is divided into a series of sections dedicated to the main periods of prehistory and protohistory. We start from Paleolithic, represented by the famous painted stone known as the shaman from the Fumane cave, and by the riparo tagliente shelter with its portable art, engraved river cables and stone slates with animal images. Neolithic and Copper Age artifacts tell you the key steps in the introduction of agriculture, animal farming, and metalworking. For the Bronze Age, the extraordinary material from the UNESCO pile dwelling sites in the Verona area, and also in the rich grave goods found in the necropolis of the territory. Finally, the Iron Age, when our region was a crucial hub between ancient Venetic, Etruscan, Raetian worlds, and then with the settlement of Celts. The aim of the exhibition is to make people aware of the role that this area has played in development of Verona city center, which is the result of a long historical process. The museum is new and has been designed according to criteria of total accessibility to all types of audiences. We are very focused, but with the didactics for schools, visits and the workshops for schools of all levels from 5 to 18 years old, and with numerous other proposals for families, thematic activities, games, birthdays, and so on. But we have also projects and proposals for people with disability and for type of audiences that are not regular museum users, foreigners and migrants, for example, with a view to true welcome and integration for all. The museum is also a place of study and research on the artifacts and context. We preserve several research projects with universities are active, but our higher effort in this moment is the planning of the Roman Age section, which we will open at the end of this year. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Giovanna. I'm very glad that you are here because you are one of the museums of the pathway. So like the next one, which is Giovanna Residori, there are the two museums in Verona which belong to the Verona pathway, what I showed you in the first in my presentation. Please, I invite Giovanna Residori.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this invitation. My name is Giovanna Residori, and I'm director of the Museo Maniscalchi Eritz in Verona. I try to share my, okay. I can't, sorry. I can't share the presentation. Sorry, big problem.
Scusa Giovanna, in che formato è la presentazione?
No, è PowerPoint, ma ha un problema di permessi. Vediamo. Oh. Vedete? Si riesce a vedere adesso?
Sì, adesso sì.
Si vede? Ok?
Perfetto, perfetto. Grazie
mille.
mille.
Thank you. I would like to start by telling you the history of our museum and our collection. The Fondazione Museo Miniscalchi Eritz was founded by the will of the last descendant of the family, Count Mario. Not having a heir, Mario Miniscalchi Eritz decided to establish a foundation and a museum in order to preserve the artistic heritage acquired by the family over the century, more or less over 5 centuries. The museum is set in the rooms of the ancient stately home, the residence of the family from the end of the 15th century until 1977. In these slides, we can see some photos of what the rooms looked like in the 1970s. Miniscalchi Palace is a fine example of late Gothic civil architecture, unique in the Veronese urban context. Dates back to the last quarter of the 15th century, and the facade was frescoed around 1590. The main and the oldest core of our collections consist of the numerous objects from Ludovico Moscardo's museum. It was a domestic museum or Wunderkammer. Moscardo was a collector and scholar from Verona, and responding to an authentic passion at just over 20 years of age, he began to take an interest in all that is art and nature. To illustrate his museum, Moscardo wrote a catalogue published in 2 different editions. Today, part of the Moscardo Museum is part of our collection as a result of the marriage between Marcantonio Miniscalchi and Teresa Moscardo in 1785. Teresa was the daughter of Princess Alfonso d'Este and was also heir to the collection of art, science, and nature collected by Ludovico Moscardo. And so in the museum, there are also other collections that come from families connected to the Miniscalchi by marriage, such as the Erizzo family. For this reason, the museum preserves and exhibits collections of different kinds, and all collections are set in such a way as to respect of the stately home. We have paintings, ivory, and precious Maiolic, archaeological collections, and these collections consisting mainly of Etruscan, Italic, Paleo-Venetian, and Roman bronzes, excavated glass and terracotta for domestic use, comes from the Museum of Ludovico Moscardo. We have bronzes and Renaissance plates, weapons and armors, 18th century Venetian furnishings, French porcelain of the Napoleonic age, the chapel for the domestic use, and the ancient library. Today, the foundation, in keeping with the missions and intentions promoted by Count Mario Miniscalchi Eritz, encourages the valorization and the dissemination of culture, opening its halls to the public and promoting initiatives aimed at fostering the growth of civil society. We are working to make the museum increasingly accessible to different audiences. Among the activities and offer are guided tours for families, adults, and senior citizens groups, practical experience of art workshops. We make extensive use of the QR code system to supplement captations in other languages, and there is an app for visiting the museum. We are creating database for the consultation of our collections, And the problem, the big problem is the museum is still understaffed. In addition to myself, there is only one member, another member of staff, and the other big problem is that the museum requires a substantial renovation work, but we are working. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giovanna, for the presentation. I forgot to say that we have tried to collect together, to bring together today museums of different type and status. So I mean, public museum, private museums, foundations, parks, national museums, local town museums, so that we have a panorama on what we can also of the problems that each kind of museums can have facing problems, issues such as inclusion and so on. So the next, thank you again, Giovanna. The next one is Carolina Megale. She has moved recently from a museum to another, and she will speak specifically of an inclusion project. More than the museum. She is the Museo Civico Archeologico di Rosignano Marittimo. Please, Carolina.
Sì, buonasera. Avrei bisogno, ecco. Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm changing museum, so
Not yet.
Not yet. It is black, all black.
I can see, so what can I do? No?
No?
I'm in, io mi dice che sono in condivisione. Interrompo e riprovo.
Sì. È un PowerPoint?
No, un PDF, ma se vuoi
Deve essere anche meglio. Dipende da che cosa stai visualizzando. Da che cosa scegli di visualizzare.
I partecipanti ora possono vedere il tuo
Sì,
schermo.
ma è tutto nero.
Maremma.
Quando apri la finestra di condivisione, ti dice che cosa vuoi condividere.
Sì, lo so.
Forse hai selezionato
Esatto. Allora, vediamo un po'.
Esci e riprova.
Allora, ora chiudo il PDF. Meglio?
No, è tutto nero. Prova a muoverti tra le varie diapositive.
Posso dirti
Sì.
una cosa?
Sì, grazie.
Probabilmente Zoom non ha diritto di accesso all'hard disk, quindi per protezione dei dati del tuo hard disk fa nero. Ti è già capitato da quel computer di condividere cose?
Sì.
Con
Sì.
Zoom?
Sì,
Con Zoom?
anch'io Zoom, sì.
Perché a volte succede questo, quando non hai i diritti e quindi quando arriva l'immagine è nera. A me capita con
Però
Teams che devi
Carolina, tu hai mandato a me la tua presentazione, potrei provare io a farla vedere.
No, aspetta, ferma, guardate un po', mi vedete? La vedete ora?
No, ancora nera.
No, è sempre nero.
Allora te la rimando perché l'ho aggiornata.
Allora mandamela su mail e io cerco di...
Scusatemi, sempre io poi, allora.
Puoi mandarla anche sulla chat qui, se non è privata.
No, ma che privata, ve la mando subito.
Oppure la mandi solo a
sulla
Simona.
chat di
Arriva prima.
Zoom. Sì, arriva prima.
Sto cercando la chat.
Sorry, we have a
Eccola.
restricted access to the computer. Speaking of access, we have problems with Carolina's
Allora,
computer.
la presentazione la sto caricando lì sulla chat e contemporaneamente io la mando.
Ok, I got it.
La condividi te?
Yes, ok. Ok, I share my screen.
Ok.
Okay.
Ok, thank you. Ok. Allora, la prossima. So because I'm changing museum from the Etruscan Museum of Populonia to the Archaeological Museum of Rosignano, I present a project that involves both the museum and is under the system of museum and park partecipativi of Tuscany. Is a new system that was born March 2022, and in this moment involve 15 museums that include people and involve people in their activity. La prossima, scusami. The project I want to present today starts in Populonia. Populonia is this fantastic Renaissance castle built around a medieval tower, but is not is not accessible, not for all. Is not for all, unfortunately, Populonia. It's heavy to arrive there. It's not so easy arrive until the museum. The museum is accessible, but until the door, the museum is difficult to arrive. La prossima. We involve people in all the activity. We work also with citizen science, and we think that the emotion in be part of the activity in the museum is also clean the window of the museum. So when we work with the citizen science, we involve people in all the aspects, there's research and not only research. We have a restorer generally who clean windows, so we can also work with the citizen science on this. La prossima. And we start a project with people with Alzheimer's disease, and at the Archaeological Museum. And we understood how is heavy for them arrive there and spend time there. We want to be open. We call the Center for Alzheimer's to involve people, but the problem for them always is the transport to arrive there, to find people that help them in arriving to the Archaeological Museum. And this happens always, and I think everywhere. So we form ourselves in take care and in make didactical lab with them, but we understood that it's not so easy to involve as we want to involve people, to give them a smile and sense of wellness during the activity to the Archaeological Museum. La prossima. And at the museum, we work with the object. This is a private collection, and the property is open, and we can do everything. So we want that people touch the object. So we experiment this kind of activity at the museum. La prossima. But on December, we decided to give a present for ourselves and for people that can't come to the museum because of lots of reasons. And so we make the project Il Museo in Viaggio, the Museum on Travel, on tour RSA, and we call many center, and all the center we call wanted, we make the lab there. So we went to the center for Alzheimer with our bag of finds. La prossima. And here is a focus on the project. We have some reproduction of object, and we start with the reproduction of object to tell them the history and stories connect with finds. So we brought museum to the center of Alzheimer. La prossima. And it's fantastic how the interaction with people move them. Well, I show a find, I go near the person with the finds, and in the second image you can see that he say no. Then we watch each other in the eyes, and then he become confident and take the finds and start to talk. And so here the inclusion is complete. La prossima. Here other example of how the object can help people in their status. Someone like the last one was serious, but at the end of the day he asked to come back there. La prossima. And this is the last project we are working on, and we are building a food track to involve young people who with various disability. So it's a project that connect the museums and the social aspect and social center to involve young people in this food track that cook and sell food inspired to the ancient Etruscan and Roman cooking. And the track have to go in all the event organized by the museum in our territory. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. It's very nice to hear about, to see something about my place, Piombino Populonia. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very interesting projects. I'm trying to translate. I wanted to translate RSA, which is in Italian, just a second, Residenza Sanitaria Assistenziale. A place where older people get assistance from, often have so illnesses, mental illness or other diseases.
Like a senior residence, residence,
yes.
A home for seniors.
Yes, this is assisted. This is where people are normally not autosufficienti,
Yes.
Autonomous. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And the word is yours. The floor is yours, Yvonne.
You have to stop that sharing. Yes, thank you. I'll try to share my screen. Okay. Do you see it right?
Yes.
Okay. So once again, hello. I work in a science center, which is a very different type of museum. We actually, in Portugal, we do not call it museum. We call it science center because, once again, we do not have collections or objects, at least not permanent ones. We are located in the same city, a few meters from Museu Abade de Bassal. We are in the northeast of Portugal. Our team is a very small team of 14 people, and we are a part of a very low density region of Portugal. We are here in the northeast in a very rural area with very few people. We have two buildings that host our exhibitions and our contents about science and technology. We have this scientific corridor, we have these classical exhibitions as tornadoes, and many exhibitions related to sustainability, especially solar and hydric energies to produce electrical energy. We are two sustainable buildings, but we are not very accessible. So this is the main one. And the second one is this old mill that we call Silk House, but it's unfortunately not physically accessible for people in wheelchairs. We are now just acquiring a ramp for them to be autonomous, but it's a work in progress. Our exhibitions here are related to the silk industry that was very prominent in the 18th century. And now we also have contents related to virtual reality, augmented reality, and also sustainability and this Silk House platform, because now this house is 80% sustainable. So we are part of a very large network. Our network, it's called Ciencia Viva. We have 22 science centers. We are just one of them. In many of the science centers, we have Ciencia Viva schools, which is a project of non-formal education. We don't have evaluation. It's just another way of complementing formal schools. We are in the making of 16 Ciencia Viva farms, which we want to address the problem of food and agro food systems with new technology. So we want to promote the production of local foods, fruits and vegetables, so it can be consumed locally, so we can fight climate emergency. And this is a lot of yellow dots because we have Ciencia Viva clubs in schools, which is a way that our network found to promote science and technology in a non-formal way in schools in Portugal. So nowadays we have almost 900 of these student clubs. So our center is dedicated especially to exhibitions and events and projects. We focus more in social accessibility. So we have different programs and different projects that aim to fulfill the gap, for example, of gender equality. We have integration programs for students from Africa and Brazil. I mean, Portuguese-speaking students. We also have virtual reality and augmented reality. And our three main areas, our three priority areas at the Bragança Ciencia Viva Science Center is science communication. Of course, we do all of these events throughout the year. We also do research and innovation because one of our associates, we are a non-profit association with a very low budget, but we belong also to Polytechnical Institute of Bragança, so they are our associates. So we always join them in projects, and X-Formal is a great example of that. And also we focus on science education and this strong connection to schools. So we take scientists to schools. We try to engage with all the little cities around this area for more inclusiveness, and also because they do not have access to science and technology as the students in big cities. So this is another way to promote inclusivity or inclusion. We also focus a lot on the development objectives for sustainable development. And here are some examples of what we are trying to achieve right now. So you can see we are trying to, we have already a guide about inclusive language. It's in Portuguese and all the science centers adopt it. So we try to be more neutral. It's a very difficult thing to do in Portuguese because we always say everything in the male words. And I think Vittorio can explain that better than I. But we try to be more inclusive in our language. We have another project called Integrate Yourself, which was for students from abroad, from Timor, East Timor, from Spain, from Brazil, from, I don't know, many students that come abroad. And we designed a special program of science and technology for them. As I said, we also have 3D printers. Sometimes we produce objects for people that have a low eyesight and they can interact with their hands and by touch, because this is an interactive museum. So we have some ways to interact with people with visual impairment. So we have 2 visits designed for them, so they can at least enjoy a little bit of our museum. We also have augmented reality, some projects. And now this Sunday, actually, we are going to have a new exhibition called Women and Girls from Bragança in Science. So we are paying homage to 11 scientists that were born here in our city. So we want to also engage their families and the people of the community, because we are a very oriented science center for the community and for society. And we also have some QR codes in our legends, so people can scan and see the legends in English and in Spanish in all our exhibits. And in our YouTube channel, we have some videos, and you can turn on all the subtitles in which language you prefer. So we are doing our way through inclusion, especially because accessibility, especially the physical one, is more difficult because of all of the difficulties that you all signed as lack of knowledge, lack of money, lack of expertise in our teams. We do not have anyone dedicated to accessibility or inclusion. It's a teamwork, and it's a national effort with the Ciencia Viva network. And we hope that in 2 or 3 years, we have these barriers all overcome. So I think the main message is that when we design some projects or some programs, people, especially people with disabilities, say this a lot, and it's very important, which is nothing about us without us. So if we want to design a visit for blind people, we have to include blind people in the co-creation process. If we want to have a project for students from Africa, we need to involve them, because only them know what their real needs and can help us do the diagnosis. So I think that for everything related to accessibility and inclusion, nothing about us without us. So let's begin with this motto, because it's very important. And when we start co-creating, we should already include everyone, the target groups in the process, so it works. So I think it's time for coffee, right, Simona? I think we are already half an hour late.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you're speaking of a bottom-up logic in building, in constructing, creating projects, accessibility, and so on. So it is important to hear the other's view in any case. Thank you, Yvonne. And so let's take a break. I would suggest 4:45 we meet again. So a little bit less time than programmed, but we are a little bit later. So so at 6:45 we meet again. I leave this room open.
Okay, thank you. See you in 8 minutes.
8 minutes, please.